the events that led up to the 1947 incident is rather peculiar because there is a lot of erratic movement on the radar screen, and this called our attention that maybe we better monitor those screens. They sent some of us to Alamogordo, the White Sands, to the blips on the screens. The blips were just dancing from one end of the screen to the other, and then all of a sudden there was kind of a flash, and it just disappeared. Well, that indicated that possibly maybe a plane or a missile or something just went down.
Kaufman says he and his team immediately drove east from Alamogordo, back to Roswell, then towards a location about 45 miles south of the Foster Ranch.
And now this was late at night. We started to clip some of the wire fence and drove into the area. The terrain was very rough at the time. There was no roads leading into it. We saw this glow of light, just this kind of a halo of a light, just kind of beaming out. We got to, I guess, maybe 200 yards, maybe 300 yards from where it was. And we learned right then and there it wasn't a plane, it wasn't a missile, it was kind of a strange-looking craft that was embedded in the arroyo. See? The size of the craft, I would say possibly maybe around 20-25 feet in length, and it was open and kind of halfway, and one body was thrown up against the wall of the arroyo. The other one was half in and half out of the craft. And when we got in close, we noticed that there were three others inside the craft. Then we radioed in back to the base to have a truck, a flatbed, and a crane and everything else just come out to the site, and we prepared everything to clear everything off.
Frank Kaufman provided us with what he claims is a copy of his official report on the Roswell Incident. A top-secret document containing observations and sketches of what he saw at the time.
We saw panels of controls. We couldn't make them out. They were writings. We didn't know what it. We couldn't decipher it or anything of that nature. And the underbelly of the craft had a series of cells, quartz type cells, sort of glass-looking cells, Arctic in shape.
This is the actual site where Kaufman says he saw the strange craft for the first time. This is an artist's impression of the aliens based on Kaufman's own descriptions.
We noticed one thing, that deterioration was beginning to set in on one of the bodies of the hands. We noticed the hands of skin trying to shrivel up, and that's the reason why we put them in the bags real in a hurry and got them out to the base hospital. They called the mortuary here to find out if there was anything that they could preserve the bodies with.
The base also inquired about the availability of child-sized coffins, and later there was another call to the town undertaker.
And I received a call later from the same mortuary officer stating that what the embalming fluids consisted of, what would it do to the blood contents, what would it do to tissues, stomach contents, and how would it alter it. And I informed him what the answers that he wanted.
Glenn Dennis also had the ambulance contract to ferry any injured servicemen to the base. That same day, he took an airman to the hospital and was amazed to find himself being roughly escorted off the base by military policemen who told him he had no right to be there.
As they were taking me out, there was a door that was open over to the left, and there was a nurse coming out that had a towel over a portion of her face, and she looked up and she recognized me, and she said, "Glenn, get out of here." get out of here as fast as you can, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. Then the next morning she called me about 10 o'clock or so and said that she would like to see me, that we had to talk. And so I met her out at the Officers Club that morning. And she was already there when I arrived at the Officers Club. She was very upset, still crying, very hysterical. Then she told me what happened about going into this room. These doctors were there, and there was some 2 hospital gurneys there with the crash bags. One crash bag was 2 very small mutilated bodies. The other one, there was a very small body in a crash bag, but it hadn't been mutilated as much as the others. And she told me the reason what they wouldn't let her out because they wanted her to write down what they were examining. And that's what she was doing. And they all became very ill. They said that the smell, and it was a very toxic smell, and they just couldn't breathe and get their breath, and they had to get out.
This is Hangar 84, and this is where the craft and the bodies were actually brought into this hangar. But there was a lot of activity in this area here. And inside the hangar, right above on top, there was this large spotlight which was shining down on the craft, and also the bodies were laid out. There were 5 of them. And there was a cordon of military police around the area to keep people getting too close.
There were other witnesses to the strange events at Hangar 84.
I had security clearance, so I told him I came over there to pick up Lieutenant Governor Joe Montoya. He was at the hangar.
Joe Montoya, Lieutenant Governor of New Mexico, was at the base campaigning for re-election. Outside Hangar 84, Ruben Anaya was waiting to pick him up.
So the APs just lead us over there, you know, and then, but they didn't park close to the hangar. They parked about a half a block away. And I says, what the hell's going on, you know? And then when they went over, I moved a little closer, and that's when the big hangar was open. So I came out. He says, let's get the hell out of here. He says.
When he come out of there, he come all scared, and he said they saw 2 little men with the big heads, but one was alive, still alive. They had him laying down on the floor, and he come out and told us the boss was there, and one was still alive.
There were other witnesses with strange reports of aliens. Fireman Dan Dwyer told his daughter Frankie what he had seen.
He said it did not come from this world, did not look like anything he had ever seen, and he said there were little people out there. And Mother asked him what he meant by little people, and he said they weren't human people, but they were little people. He said there were 2 that were already dead when they got there, and they were put into body bags. And I don't know if the one that was still alive had put them into the bags or if someone assisted at the time. There was one that was still alive and was walking around.
At the sheriff's office, Sheriff Wilcox's wife later told her daughter what had really happened.
She said that there was a flying saucer, and that they even found some bodies by it, and one of them was alive, and that the Army, Air Force had come and threatened my father and his family to not mention anything at all about it.
According to Frank Kaufman, the debris and bodies were flown to Air Force Intelligence Headquarters at Wright Field, and another consignment was sent to Andrews Air Force Base in Washington.